Good evening, and welcome to the April 23rd, 2015 Environmental Advisory Council meeting in Radnor. Our first order of business is to review and approve last month's minutes. Does anybody have any changes?
You might want to speak to the booth because all of our screens look like this.
Oh.
I don't know if that's going home that way or not.
Jim, our screens look a little bit goofy. I'm not sure.
It's broken right now, sorry.
Oh, okay.
We're going out live.
We're going out live, okay.
Sorry about that.
So review and approval of last month's minutes. Does anybody have any changes? Do I have anybody that'd like to approve them or make a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, next order of business are announcements, and I have two. I'd like the very brief announcements. May 2nd is the Radnor's Anything with a Plug Recycling Day. It's here at the Township building. May 2nd is a Saturday. No, wait. Yes, it is a Saturday, yeah. It's from 9 a.m. until 1 p.m. It's anything with a plug that includes TVs and monitors, although you have to pay a little bit extra. You have to pay to have those disposed, but everything else is free, so I bring anything that has a wire on it, or a chip, or a circuit board, so they're great. Also, another hazardous waste, household hazardous waste collection event. Delaware County is putting this one on. This is 2 days from now, April 25th. It's in Darby, Pennsylvania. These household waste collection events, this is where they take anything like paints and anything that like fertilizers, you name it, anything that's left over in your garage that you need to get rid of and you don't know how to get rid of, chances are they can do it for you. Standard household batteries, like the kind that you would buy in the hardware store, those go in your regular trash. But if you have specialty batteries, rechargeable batteries, larger ones that you can't buy at a hardware store, those you would bring to an event like this. Again, that's this Saturday, April 25th in Darby. The address is 1600 Calcon Hook Road. I have no idea where that is. Oh, it's at the Emergency Services Training Center. Any other announcements?
Yes, I have a couple. There is going to be a cleanup on May 2nd. This is King of Prussia, so not exactly in our backyard, but close enough. This is being put on by the Upper Marion Township EAC and the partners of the Schuylkill Action Network. They're going to clean up King of Prussia streams on Saturday, May 2nd from 10 to 2 with a pizza party afterwards. And it's for everyone from age 12 on up. And there is information and registration at a website called schuylkillscrub.org. So Schuylkill, like the river scrub.org. Also, Chester County Citizens for Climate Protection is having a talk on May 13th at 7 p.m. in Westchester called Risky Business, the Corporate Response to Climate Change, given by a professor from Bryn Mawr College named Dr. David Ross.
Thank you, Sally. Anybody else have an announcement? Okay, moving along. Our work group reports. As we mentioned last month, the Green Team passed their wind power purchase for Radnor, and the Green Team has not met yet since that has happened. And I don't think we have one scheduled yet. We hope to do it in May, but I don't know when it's going to be. So I'll let you know when I find out. And this timely on the Wren grant. This will probably be one of our last announcements on this, but Ann, you want to tell us what's happening?
Well, this weekend is the actual planting of the rain garden. If you look on your way out of the Township building tonight, if you look to the right as you go out just this side of the stream, you can see where they dug out the cavity where the rain garden will go. And Dan Meyer is going to be in charge of getting it planted on Saturday. We have a number of volunteers coming. We're looking forward to having that completed. Another event that is going on this weekend, the Township joins with the Conservancy every year to have a tree giveaway, and that's going to be going on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So on Saturday, there'll be people coming to the Township building to pick up trees and people coming to the Township building to help plant the rain garden. And eventually, we don't have a sign for the rain garden yet, but a sign is in the works. So eventually, there'll be an educational sign next to the rain garden explaining what a rain garden is, how it works, and including a link to get more information about how to install your own rain garden.
I noticed when I was driving in that there are a few curb cuts that were made. They looked intentional curb cuts to drain to a depression, but I counted more than one. Are there more than one rain garden going in? Is there more than one rain garden going in?
I don't think so, but I know that it's been around and around, and Dan is the one that's been working with the township to figure out exactly where it's going to be, and it's gone back and forth between whether it would be more than one or one. I thought it had settled at one, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock with my son shoveling away.
So does it collect all the water?
So, yeah, so what the intent is to capture some of the rainwater from the parking area.
Yes, it's not linked to the roof. We talked about whether we could create a rain garden that was linked to the roof of the building, but when the building was built, all of the downspouts were connected to storm sewers underground, so it would be very difficult to change that. So this is designed to catch and manage some of the runoff, particularly from the new paved area.
Which is appropriate because it's within a few feet of the creek, right?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Okay, so we had talked about reorganizing our work groups last month, and I'll look briefly here on the, let's see, where is it? Work group reports. We talked about the need to replace the Wren grant and the open space work groups, and to bring some new bring some new priorities to the EAC for 2015. And I think it's appropriate that one or two new work groups are opened up. And we talked a little bit about the sustainable parks being seems to be sort of filtering down as our number one idea as to where we can focus our efforts. There's been a lot of discussion about this lately, both in the Ardrossan farmers, the farming of the Ardrossan parcel that we've just acquired, the replacement of potential replacement of glyphosate, which is Roundup, here at in the township. They're thinking about no longer using that. More on that later, by the way. So I want to move this forward. I was hoping that maybe tonight we could agree that that might be one of our new work groups. Of course, it's more than just that for sustainable parks. There's other things to it, but it's timely and for those reasons. And I think that's what I'm recommending. You guys on board with that? Yeah. I see a lot of heads nodding.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. We can discuss via email as to who wants to be on it, and then we can kick off next month with our first report on that. Okay, so moving along. Community environmental education and awareness. I wanted to make an announcement on that. We, at the Wayne Elementary School PTO, we had our third annual birdhouse painting event. This was on Tuesday. And closer to 30 kids came and painted a birdhouse. And what happens, which is really nice, the Radnor Birdtown organization, who's affiliated with the Audubon Society, right? This is the second, or I think it's the second time that they've come, and they give a little presentation while the kids are painting their birdhouses. They give a talk with a projector, and you'd be surprised how many kids there can identify the most obscure species of birds just from a picture. Have you ever heard of a gannet? Yeah, I've heard of a gannet, but I have no idea what a gannet looked like. And one kid identified a gannet. So anyway, there are some budding birders at Wayne Elementary School, and it's a great program. And I think we usually get about 40 kids, and we got about 30 this time, so we're pretty happy about that.
Josh, can I mention this? I should have mentioned this earlier in the announcements phase. There's a presentation going on that's sponsored by Birdtown, by Audubon, and a number of partners called the 5 Bs. So they've been rolling this out over a number of weeks. It wraps up at the end of May. You can get information on it at the Radnor Conservancy website. So the 5 Bs are birds, bats, bugs, butterflies, and no, what? Bunnies? No, not bunnies, something. Nobody can ever get the 5 Bs all at once. Anyway, so there is an art display, a juried art display at Wayne Art Center, which is one of the partners. It's worth going over there to look at their 5B art. It's a tremendous variety of kinds of arts, and a series of lectures about the 5Bs and how important they are environmentally. I went to the first lecture, which was a couple weeks ago. It was extraordinary. So go to the Radnor Conservancy website, look at the 5Bs schedule, and try to get involved. There are events for children as well as for adults.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, so the Green Committee at the Radnor PTO, of which I volunteer for, they're looking for some new blood as well, because our leadership is moving along to the middle school as our kids get older, so we're looking for some new people coming in. We don't have a very close relationship with the Green Committees at Ithan Elementary or Radnor Elementary, and in fact, I'm not even sure if Radnor has one, but it's a great opportunity to get the kids early involved in recycling and bringing those recycling habits home. It is kind of shocking and disappointing how little they recycle at lunchtime, even though they're provided the opportunity to. So we feel that, especially for those kindergartners and first graders that are coming into the school, it's important to get them early, and that's one of the reasons we formed the committee. And so, yeah. That's my announcement there. Anybody else have any community environmental education or awareness?
Sloan is not here for Water Sense.
No, he's
And
not.
this is just, we seem to have time, and it's an amazing fact, and I thought you might want to hear it. It takes 72 gallons of water to grow a pound of avocados in California, and 9 gallons to grow a pound of tomatoes. So it's maybe an inverse way of doing Water Sense is actually to change your diet, as opposed to worrying about watering your plants or not and things like that.
Eat less vegetables, what you're saying.
No, eat less avocados maybe.
And almonds, from what I hear.
And
too.
almonds.
Yeah.
Almonds are 10% of the agricultural water used in California. 10% one crop. No, it's not. That can't be that much. Last little tidbit is the recycling, which is apropos of what you just said. Because of the single stream approach, glass is beginning to be viewed partially as a pollutant in the single stream, as opposed to aluminum and paper. So there is a move afoot here and there for some of the major waste management companies to actually charge for a load of single stream material if there's too much glass in it.
Do you have any information as to why that is?
There's no market for the glass. I mean, there's no profitable market. And separating it, the paper is more valuable probably now than the glass. Glass is the heaviest component in single stream. Aluminum, I'm sure, is very valuable, but the glass can foul up the process. They need more expensive equipment or more people sorting if there's too much glass, literally. So in some communities, Harrisburg, they have told people, we don't want you to recycle glass anymore. This is one of today's papers. I forget which one.
It's amazing. I think glass is one of the first things that people started recycling back in the day.
Well, New Jersey used to put it in the paving material. They used to call it glitza. And it was part of the blacktop.
Thanks.
Sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if that's good news or bad news. Any other announcements? Community environmental education awareness? I have a couple things. I guess this could be new business. So anyway, Skip, can you give us your liaison report for the Planning Commission?
Well, finally, I guess everyone knows this, but if they don't, we gave preliminary approval at the last meeting of the Planning Commission to both the Biomed latest plan and the Villanova slightly different but very similar plan for their development. This has been a very, very long process. We've had probably 8 to 10 special meetings outside of the norm to get to this point. The Biomed, Villanova is not really big news. I mean, most people know that it's a series of dorms, the Performing Arts Center, the parking garage. Villanova's made a series of changes over time, but we were really looking at fine detail when we issued the preliminary approval, and I believe it was unanimous. Biomed was not a unanimous vote. 2 planning commissioners had to leave, and so the vote was 7 people. It was 5-2 to approve on a preliminary basis. The big changes to Biomed are this. From a incredible high point last year under a mixed-use ordinance that was being considered, one proposal had 700,000 square feet being constructed on the site. Then a variety of issues have come up about whether or not you can count 7 acres that are in the right-of-way of the Blue Route, and whether or not shifting parking from the surface to an underground garage is permitted if you couldn't have fit all the cars on the surface. That particular part of the ordinance has been considered ambiguous and subject to legal challenge. So staff and our council told us basically we should not stand on the ordinance language because it may be plain, but it's ambiguous. So anyway, the bottom line is the development now is about 475,000 square feet. In 2009, I think they had approval that lapsed for the passage of time to build something like 425 or 430. So it will have an impact on traffic, but I was talking to Ann just before the meeting. One of the big, it's not a concession. I think they just came forward with it and offered everything they were possibly going to offer to get this preliminary approval the other day. But they are going to spend probably somewhat in excess of $1 million just on computerized traffic controls for 6 or 7 intersections, which will help everybody all the time, including school dismissal times. This will, it scans both sides of an intersection, or if there are more sides than 4, then more sides than that, counts the cars that are loaded in each direction, and will artificially let the light stay green longer if there are too many cars in this queue. And they've been using this in Upper Merion for about 3 or 4 years on 202. It was an early project, but they say that almost every single time when you implement these traffic control measures, traffic improves 20 to 35%. Now, there will be more cars. The parking lot now for the existing site, which is only 2/3 tenanted, is about 800 or 900 spaces, and they're going to have 1,800. So there is 1,000 new cars coming and going. But I think that on balance, it will not be as bad because of this major offering on their part. They're also going to extend part of the trail on the greenways. I don't know exactly how far. We were focused on other things that night, but they're going to build a chunk of it, or allow a chunk of it to be built, or both. And certainly there'll be major road improvements to King of Prussia Road. So that when these are preliminary approvals, we will get to see these again, but the heavy lifting part, I think, is done on both.
Well, congratulations to you, because I know how many meetings you've been going to. Do you know anything about the parcel that's back on the other on that's split from them? What do they call those woods that were gifted to, or what was that called now?
Ann might.
What's the name of those woods? I don't know. I just
Martha.
That's it.
Martha what?
No, Martha Brown's woods are across, they're on the south side of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there are different tracts that we hope to. The Greenways plan includes, the neatest part of it involves developing trails that go up sort of on either side of the Blue Route. And then, there's a lot of land back in there that's not developed, and I don't remember the names of the parcels.
I think they're going to build at least a section that's on that 7-acre right-of-way that's part
That
of the
would be
Blue Route.
terrific to get that
Yeah.
going.
And then there's a big 5-foot wide sidewalk going out in front, and there'll be all sorts of pedestrian connections to the site.
All right, excellent. And we were supposed to have our Parks and Rec guy was supposed to be here, but he didn't make it, so we're going to have to postpone his liaison report until next month. All right, I wanted to find something on my phone, but I'll come back to that. On old business, I wanted to bring up the glyphosate product. I think I forwarded this all to the group, right? I'm just going to read it out loud if you don't mind. It's really, really brief. This is from Steve Norsini to one of our commissioners. Who he was asking them to. He was asking the commissioner to forward this information to us for like kind of an FYI kind of thing. Good afternoon. The manager directed me to provide you with information about our testing of a new form of weed control. We will be using Avenger, which you can view the specifics about at their website, avengerorganics.com. The short version is that the product is made of citrus rind extract, and it is not harmful to humans or pets. The area that we put forth to use as test locations for the entire season, I'm assuming that means the growing season of 2015, in lieu of glyphosate, which is the scientific name of the chemical in Roundup. Those locations are the Radnor Trail, Clem McCrone Park, the Emlyn Tunnel Park, Warren Philippone Park, Beau Connor Park, Sawmill Park, Radnor Nature Park, and the Township Building. And he attached the Q&A, frequently asked questions about Avenger Weed Killer. And I went through it briefly, and basically what the stuff is about 15 or 17% of the essential oil that comes from the rinds of oranges. D-limonene, I think is what the chemical's called.
I have the website up.
Yeah, it is it's the thing that gives the orange smell, basically, that stuff. And the rest of it is water, basically, and surfactants. And the surfactants are there to make the oil dissolve in the water. And they give some information about the surfactants, and they say that they're safe. I don't know what they are. They said that they were proprietary, non-toxic surfactants. So this citrus oil is supposed to work very well, they say, of course, and it can be applied during cold weather, warm weather, basically the same as you would use Roundup, and of course it's supposed to be safe to humans and the environment, is what this says. I don't know anything about it. I haven't done any further research. I don't know what people are saying about it. I don't know if it's effective, but that's why the.
Is it aromatic, do we know? Does it say
I'm
that?
assuming it's very aromatic.
It says that it is.
Yeah, I would assume it is. Smells like oranges, probably.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's EPA registered.
EPA registered and approved, too. Of course, so is glyphosate, but this sounds a little more benign. This sounds more benign.
I'll give you some quick bullets here. It says it does not contain glyphosate, obviously, does not contain corn gluten, acetic acid, or clove oil, does not include food-grade vinegar, does not include fatty acid, salt, or any synthetic chemicals. Anyway, so.
I think that's a great little piece of news that
Yeah.
Mr. Norsini is doing that. I know the river protection
Keeper.
keeper,
Maya.
they would probably, I think, hopefully, would be happy about that news.
It is a non-selective herbicide. Basically means that it'll kill, it's supposed to kill anything,
Any plant, anyway.
any plant.
Doesn't stain, according to this, and biodegrades very rapidly, and it has visible results on plant material in less than 2 hours.
Yeah, less than 2 hours, which is interesting. Glyphosate takes quite a bit longer than that, which means it's probably pretty nasty. I don't know if I'd want to eat the stuff, but you're not supposed to eat it. So anyway, that's the story there. I think that's pretty exciting, and I think this should be something that we keep in tune to. I'm assuming that you probably still need to have a license to apply this. That's probably actually a good question. I don't know the answer to that. But of course, our public works guys do have licenses to apply herbicides, and I'm assuming that they were also being trained on the proper use of this herbicide. So we should just keep tabs with these guys and find out if it's working.
The issue with the Roundup, I remember, was a breakdown in communication in the public areas, notifying folks of where it had been put down. If we could get Mr. Norsini to do so, it could be a really neat kind of promotion opportunity to get a little flag in there to say,
This is lemon oil.
yeah, don't lick it, but it's we're killing plants organically, or whatever it is. I think that'd be a nice little, at least something to follow up with them. At a minimum, find out where the test bed areas are within each of the locations.
I wonder if this company has, signs that they would give you. It's basically little advertisers, right? Advertising signs you can plop in the gardens. I wonder if they have anything. Anyway, this is certainly part of the sustainable parks policy that we, by the way, had passed 2 years ago. It is, wait a minute, sustainable parks policy. Did that get passed 2 years ago? I think it did. It was a resolution that we passed, but it was vague, and it was basically said that a parks policy should be formed. That's what it was. It was a resolution to create a parks policy, and we did specifically mention this subject in our resolution. That's what I'm driving at. Anyway, so that's that news. And I did have a resident send me something about the. Sorry, that's it for that business. I want to say one more piece of old business that I have. A resident contacted me about the water quality in the park, the pond at the Fenimore Woods Park. And I think that's one of Luke's parks that he has. And so it wasn't an urgent piece of business, but I think, and since I don't have it printed out in front of me, I think I'm going to just forward it on to Luke.
Was it a request for?
It had to do with algae.
It's been
Yeah.
a persistent problem.
Yeah, it had to do with the algae.
Algae blooms.
There was an attempt years ago to cut these channels and grow particular plant material in these channels that fed the pond, under the theory that they would act as natural dams to scoop up the algae and prevent it from entering, and it would degrade on the banks, but it didn't work, I guess.
Algae blooms are, from our goose research, the goose dropping runoff, the most common is algae blooms.
And all the runoff is coming from homeowners who may fertilize their lawns.
So basically what it was is I think it was some kind of device that they use at a place called Leopard Lakes. I don't know where Leopard Lakes is. But I think it was some sort of a sonic thing. I don't know. It was like an underwater sonic thing that keeps the water clear and probably annoys the fish to death. Anyway, so pretty interesting. That's all I have for old business. Is there any new old business? Any other old business?
I'd like to ask about the artificial turf question, because at our last meeting, I raised some more points, and I think we left it that you were going to check and see what language was used when the EAC sort of gave its official response to Leo.
Yes, I thought we did that. Did I not do that? I thought we did close that. Sorry, I don't have that in front of me, the official language, if that's what you're looking at for.
The official closing must have been like February, early March, because at the last small meeting, I had raised some sort of additional research, and then you said you would look and see, and I had said I really hesitate to use the language that we were okay with recommending artificial turf, which I think is what you had thought we had said to Leo.
Okay, no,
And
you're right.
So
I'm sorry,
not sure
Sally.
how things stand right now, or if he's gotten any new information.
Okay, no, you're right. It did say that I was supposed to look back to see how how the EAC's conclusion was phrased. Sorry, I didn't do that.
And there was a little more research that I emailed since the last meeting, just to use. Should I just send that directly to him? I mean, would that be helpful? I don't know if it's something that the group wants to discuss, but I found one thing that was specifically for school administrative people that are deciding whether or not to put in artificial turf. Not a scientific paper, but it was somebody's attempt to quantify pros and cons. So I'd be happy to send that to him directly if that would be helpful.
Well, here's my thought on that. It seems like there's quite a few, news items that come up about this quite often, whether they're about health effects or environmental effects. And I didn't want to bombard them. Not bombard. That's the wrong term, but send them repeatedly over time. They get more and more from us. And after a while, I think they would not look at any of it. I think it's important that we approach them with something that we feel is important or a recommendation that we have, rather than just sending them articles. But there's nothing that, I can't stop you from sending them an article. I mean, you certainly can do that. But I certainly think it would be more effective if we had something that we thought was worthy of a face-to-face or a resolution or a note from the EAC. Do you agree, Sally?
Well, I wasn't here when this all came up, so I don't know exactly how his inquiry was posed. But I guess to me, I don't see any of us personally as capable of giving a definitive answer. We're not scientists, certainly not in that specific area. I think, we've, over the last few months, given him information. You're right, there's always more that can be found. I know Riverkeeper gave him a ton of information. I'm just talking about the environmental aspects, but I do think that it is probably our job to raise issues that he may not be aware of, even if we can't give him a definitive yes or no. But that sort of gets back to why, at the very least, I would be more comfortable with saying, with not saying that we recommend it, with saying that there is a lot of uncertainty about it and that we're not in a position to recommend it. We may not be in a position to say it's a terrible idea, but I'm not in favor of recommending it.
I think that's what we said, that we couldn't rule on it, that the health issues were really a Board of Health question more than us, and that we weren't qualified technically in our backgrounds to be able to say yes or no.
I didn't remember it exactly like that. I seem to recall, we had this discussion last month, but I seem to recall our trying to hedge our words a little bit by saying that we, right. I mean, you remember what I said. It was something like, we found no reason why to change a recommendation from 5 years ago or whatever. We of course, we're not experts in the field, but we were asked to review information from experts in the field. And I think that's something that the EAC does very well. We look to see whether data is coming from a reputable source. Is it coming from a peer-reviewed study? Are the conclusions strong enough that action is advisable? That kind of stuff. I think we do that pretty well. I mean, I don't know necessarily that we need to have 7 turf experts to give a recommendation.
I think it comes down to forming an opinion versus, scientifically quantifying the problem. we're probably not qualified to quantify the exact impact, but we're certainly qualified to form an opinion on whether we think something is potentially bad or potentially good or completely unknown.
Matt, you found our
I do.
it wasn't a resolution, right? It was basically a summary of our discussion.
It's basically a summary, right? I'm just looking at the minutes from last time, and I think the note that we ended on, Josh, you had mentioned that, no, this was Sloan that had spoken with the EPA, and their stance is there's no real change in their perspective on the data, with the understanding that the data available is still pretty limited. Connecticut's doing their own studies. They've reached the same conclusion. There's no evidence at this point to support the idea that artificial turf is unsafe. But what we ended on, I think, is the idea that we don't consider the subject closed at all. We want to continue to have a dialogue about it. And I think that, I guess just to reiterate what you mentioned before, the whole human health issue is a very separate area than the environmental impact issue. And I think because we were given a clear mandate not to deal with the human health stuff, we didn't even really get into that discussion. So depending on kind of what the particular topics are that you found new research on, that might fall into one side or the other.
Well, I was looking specifically for environmental aspects, not health, although sometimes they go together, but I know what our mandate is. But I also recollect from the email that the Board of Health was not asked to look at the whole question of artificial turf this time around. Maybe they'd been asked when he asked about it several years ago, but they were not going to look at it again. So that means we are the only ones looking at it. And as far as I know, the only research that we were looking at was what Riverkeeper dug up and gave us a list of. And then I found a little bit more. I mean, I don't know and I think maybe Sloan found a few, or maybe you found a few, but it's not like we went out and redid a big long list like was done 5 years ago. So I just, again, I think maybe we are in a position to spot some issues that might not have been singled out before, even if there is no scientific sort of consensus on those issues. They have been raised.
Okay, so what do you think that we should do next?
Would it be helpful maybe if Sally distributes to the EAC the article that she found that she thinks is a helpful summary, and any other information that she has, so that we can kind of digest it and feel as if and get a sense as a group of whether it raises new issues or clarifies things in a way that we think would be helpful to the school district?
Sounds right to me. So, does that sound reasonable, Sally?
Yeah, I can rewrite. Yes, I can. I'm happy to go revisit what I've already written in terms of notes and emails and so forth.
Yeah, I've gotten quite a few, and I just don't know did you mean all of them, like all of the articles? Do they all raise the same issue? Are they different issues? I know we talked about microbes.
I understood Sally to be saying that there was a new article that sort of looked at both sides of the issues and acted as a good summary, and that's what you were proposing.
That one was something that I thought might be. That was not a scientific article at all. That was written by some people who I don't even remember what their background is exactly, but they were specifically talking about school districts making a decision whether or not to use artificial turf. So they had their own suggested list of questions to ask, is it going to be watered, blah, blah, blah. Just lots of questions, practical questions. So I thought that might be particularly useful for Leo as a school administrator. It's not something that I would suggest that we try and answer because we're not in a position to. But that one, certainly, I could send around for everyone to look at. There was, I think, another one kind of along those lines, and then I can summarize a little bit of the other research that I did on some other issues.
Okay, yeah, I think that's great. And then if we have to, what we can do is take those questions, I don't know how many there are, but send them to Leo between meetings, and maybe we can have answers by the time our next meeting comes around to those questions. Do they water the turf? Do they wash the turf? I remember that was one you talked about. Are there any chemicals applied to the turf? That kind of stuff. Okay. We were on old business. Any other old business? New business. Any new business?
I have new business.
Steve.
With heavy heart, I'm resigning my seat on the EAC. And I try and mean that as sincerely as possible. The last 2 years, my travel schedule for work has just incrementally gotten, more intense. And with the 3-year-old twins at home and my 7-year-old daughter, it's been tough to dedicate time to the EAC when I have some other priorities going on. So I was telling Josh before the meeting, my number one goal has always been to be involved in the township as much as possible. So I'm looking at it as a pause a little bit, and I hope to stay involved and hopefully be back at some point. But I can't contribute. I'm not contributing enough for my own satisfaction. I can't believe for anyone else's either right now. But I'm going to resign my seat. I think next month will be my last meeting. So I wanted to announce that. I didn't prepare a speech or anything, but I've absolutely enjoyed my time here, and I'll be here next month, hopefully. But I wanted to give you all a heads up that I'm going to be stepping down.
Well, we'll be sorry to see you go.
Yes. That's what I was telling Josh. Your ratings online are now going to plummet, but
And if you ever want to, go count goose droppings with me again.
yes. Well, that's probably. I need more field trips. We need more field trips.
Well, okay. Thank you, Steve. Any other new business?
And I will be volunteering. If anyone's volunteering this Friday for the tree giveaway, I'll be there Friday afternoon helping unload.
Okay. Public comment? Karen, you want to say anything? Just listening? Okay, no, that's fine.
I find very interesting about the life estate.
Karen is an acquaintance with Steve, and she's interested in possibly filling a vacancy on our board. And I said, I invited Karen to come, and I invite anybody from the public to come, of course. We don't get too many people sitting out here, do we? But, fifth. I thought we were the second most. We're the fifth most watched. And there's, how many? 5?
Never felt such an important office.
I think I know, yeah. I'll ask Jim. He knows. Okay, well, there being no public comment, meeting adjourned.